Hi guys, Susie here, and you can probably already tell by the title of this video that in today's video I'm going to talk about something very sad and I don't know what else to say, just that it's a very sad topic, but I feel extremely compelled to make this video, and one of the reasons that I'm making this video is because 2 years ago, when I was pregnant with Wilson, I was following Anna Ciccone on YouTube. Like, I watched every one of her videos, and she was pregnant around the same time as me, and she ended up having a miscarriage, and she made a video about it and kind of talked about her feelings, and she also talked about like the physical things that happened to her body when she was going through the miscarriage. And it was a little bit TMI, but she did warn people at the time that she was going to start talking about the actual miscarriage, like that it was about to get a little bit graphic, and that if you wanted to turn off the video, that to feel welcome to do that. But anyway, I was having a perfectly healthy pregnancy, and I ended up watching her video from beginning to end. And when this started to happen to me, and I am going to tell you guys exactly like everything leading up to what happened and exactly what happened, but when this started happening to me, my doctor was amazing. Like, and I'm going to get to all that. But I found it really hard to find information online that was specific to my situation. And I remembered things from her video, and it ended up being so exactly similar to what happened to me and what happened kind of to my body, that I was able to go and watch that, and it really helped me a lot. Now, this girl has like 300,000 subscribers, and so I mean, I sent a message to reach out to her to thank her for that, but she'll probably never see that. But anyway, if for any reason, Anna, this video reaches you, I just have to thank you, because that was one of the key factors that really helped me, anyway, get through this. But anyway, so I'm going to try to make this video not too long, but I do really want to talk about this, kind of because it's been like a little while since it happened, and I just need to kind of put it to rest and just kind of start the healing process and the grieving process and start the healing process. So anyway, so my pregnancy, you guys have been watching my pregnancy updates, was going perfectly standardly normal. I had pregnancy symptoms very similar to my first pregnancy. Another thing I want to say before I get into this is I'm going to mention the first couple of things that happened before I ended up miscarrying. If you're pregnant right now, I don't want any of these things to alarm you, because all of the things that happened to me are also normal things that can happen in your first trimester. And so there was no big alarm bells or anything like that. It was just little tiny signs that honestly could mean that you're about to have a miscarriage, or could mean that you're in your first trimester pregnancy, and they're normal things that go along with pregnancy. So anyway, I was 11 weeks pregnant, and I had like a tiny little like spot of blood, and it was brownish. And I'm very close with my doctor. We kind of work together at the same time, so I have more access to her than some people would have to the regular physician, and she's like just super warm, and I trust her. And so like I contacted her right away, and I said, look, I might be being silly, but I had some spotting. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of exaggerated a little bit because I was a little bit worried, and I wanted her to want to look into it. So I exaggerated the amount a little tiny bit, I think subconsciously. But it was only like a tiny little amount. And from everything that I know, that is completely normal. And it was brownish, which is completely normal in your first trimester. If you have a little bit of spotting, please do not panic, because I think that like 75% of people with spotting ends up being no issue. What I do recommend is just mentioning it to your doctor. So anyway, I had a tiny bit of spotting. So she said, okay, Susie, you have two choices. We can send you can kind of wait, because your ultrasound is coming up in like 5 days, I think my ultrasound was. She's like, we can wait, but if you feel really stressed and if it's bothering you, I can send you for blood work, and you'll get your beta HCG test done. And what we do is we test it, and we see what your HCG levels are, so basically like the pregnancy hormones. And then we're going to test again 48 hours later to see if there's a drop. And she said, at this stage in your pregnancy, this is not even the best test because some people at 11 weeks, 12 weeks, 13 weeks, 14 weeks, the numbers kind of start to drop down anyway. But she said it's kind of the first step in just kind of seeing where you are. So anyway, I still was not really upset and I was not panicking, and I'm not lying. Like, I felt very positive, but I just wanted to go get that done as much as I hate blood work. Anyway, I went and got it done. She contacted me that same day in the afternoon. She said, this is what your numbers were. They seem perfectly normal to me, but we are going to test again 48 hours later. So anyway, I Googled the numbers, of course, and they were on the low side. But there's such a huge range. I think mine were like 23,000 or something like that. And online it said like 25,000 to 100,000 is normal. And don't quote me on that, but it's very close when you're 11 weeks pregnant. So like I was only 23,000. So that was low, but again, like my doctor said, like that's just a guide. It can vary so much. So anyway, I still wasn't that worried. I was just a tiny bit worried. So then I worked back shift the night before the 48 hours was over. And my hospital, the lab opens at 7 in the morning and my back shift ended at 7. So I went right after back shift and I got the second lab draw done. Then that same morning was my first OB appointment. So I went to see like my pregnancy doctor basically for the first time, and I was only 11 weeks pregnant, and she just went through, you know, the questionnaire and asked me when when was the first day of my last menstrual period, asked me all like health related questions, looked at my blood work and all that kind of stuff. And I told her there was a tiny bit of spotting. And that I was waiting for the second HCG level to come up and that the first one was a tiny bit low. And she kind of said the same thing my doctor said. She was like, you know, it's low, but it still doesn't really tell us anything. So she looked at my blood work and it was still pending. So she didn't have like a definitive answer for me. But anyway, like she checked my uterus and that seemed to be in the right place and whatever. And she never checks for the baby's heartbeat until after 12 weeks. And she was the same with my first pregnancy because she said like sometimes she can't find it, and then because she just has like a little handheld Doppler, it's not an ultrasound. She said if I can't find it, then I'm going to send you into a panic. And I didn't even ask her to check it because, again, to be perfectly honest, I really still wasn't worried. Everything was going along as normal. I expected to get the HCG levels, my doctor to say like, oh yeah, it looks pretty good, and then get my ultrasound following Tuesday. So this was a Friday, so like 4 days later and everything would be fine. So anyway, that was that. I left that appointment, went home and went to sleep because, again, this was right after my back shift. So it was now around, I don't know, it was 10 o'clock or something like that. So I went to sleep. And then when I woke up, I had a message from my doctor and I talked to her, and she said that the second HCG levels were low, but again, she said it wasn't a huge change. So she said, I'm going to give you a couple options again. She said, you can go for an ultrasound right now, like an emergency ultrasound, or if you're feeling calm and you're feeling good, you can just wait and go to your regular ultrasound on Tuesday, because that was just in a few days. And I was like, no, I really want to go right now, because now I was starting to get worried. And she said, I thought you would say that. And anyway, she said, I'll set it all up, drink your water, and go to the hospital. And guys, I live in an extremely small town. We have like a smallish hospital. I work in the hospital, and I live like 2 seconds away from the hospital. And so for some of you, like the finding out process, unless you just like start miscarrying and bleeding everywhere, like the finding out process, like the diagnosing of a miscarriage, it might take like 5 days to a week to find out, because, you know, maybe my HCG levels would have been low and she wouldn't be able to get me in for an ultrasound for a few more days. Or like some doctor might make you wait for your ultrasound that's already scheduled for like 4 days later because of like the availability of an ultrasound technician and all that. So for me, luckily it did happen pretty fast. It happened like over 3 days from the time I had like the first kind of little spot. So anyway, still no spotting. I had no cramps, nothing like that. I was going for my ultrasound. My husband is an OR nurse, and it wasn't 3 o'clock yet. He doesn't get off till 3 o'clock, and he was scrubbed into a case. He was scrubbed into a case, so he didn't have his phone on him. And so I just texted him and I said, hey, my levels were low and I'm going to go in for an ultrasound now. If you get off work before I get out, just come down to the ultrasound department or just call me or text me. But if I don't answer my phone, I'm getting my ultrasound. So again, the fact that I didn't bring my husband with me, I still wasn't that worried. I'm a positive person, and I think I will remain a positive person. I always expect the best. And then if the worst happens, then I do have good coping skills. And so I do try to always expect a positive outcome. So anyway, get to the ultrasound department, and the lady that did my ultrasound, she just asked me a few questions like, you know, did I have bleeding and when did it start and how much was it, and a few things. And then she started doing my ultrasound, and she did it kind of very quickly and abruptly. She did it very quickly, and then she like immediately shut the monitor off, and she said, okay, so I'll send these results to your doctor as soon as possible. And she said, and they'll give you the results. And she was kind of cold. And then she said, is your doctor in her office today? And that's when I like knew, because at first I was just kind of thinking like, this lady is kind of a bitch and she's just not giving me any kind of reassurance. But like when I look back now, I think she was just trying to be like very professional. And she, like, a lot of people don't understand this, but like ultrasound technicians, it's not their job to read any type of report to you or give you any type of diagnostics. And in our health authority, that is very highly regulated. So they won't tell you anything that they're not supposed to. And I just feel like her and I are like the same age. And so like I'm not like upset with her for being like the way she was, because I feel like it would be like an awkward situation for her anyway, because normally at the end, I do know at the end, if there's nothing wrong, they show you the baby at the very end, and she didn't even do that. So I kind of knew then. So I called my husband and he was off by then. I was like crying and stuff. But I still didn't know for sure. I was just judging by, when she said, is your doctor in her office today? I kind of knew that something was wrong. So anyway, I went home, I picked up my son from daycare, and when I pulled in my driveway, and like that wasn't even an hour later, I pulled in my driveway and my husband pulled in the driveway at the same time. My doctor called me and told me that she wanted to see me in her office and could I bring my husband, and that it wasn't good news. And she said, you can either take your time and come see me tomorrow, or do you want to come see me right now? And I was like, no, I want to come see you right now. So I knew. So my brother-in-law, who lives across the street, came over and got my baby. My sister-in-law was away, which sucks, because like she's like my other person. Like she's kind of like my stand-in best friend sometimes, and she was away. So anyways, we went, and my doctor just told me that the baby had passed away at about 8 weeks. And she said, but that my body wasn't, because I only had that one bit of blood and then I didn't have any more, but that my body was not rejecting it on its own. And so I had a couple of options. She said, like, it's not safe to wait too much longer. She said, you can either wait a little while longer, she said, like a few days, and see if your body takes care of it on its own, or you can come in and get misoprostol. I don't know how to pronounce that, but basically it's a medication. You can take it orally or you can take it vaginally. I think you can even take it rectally. I'm not 100% sure, but it basically like induces your uterus into contracting and stuff, and it'll help you like shed everything. So she said, naturally take the medication, or your third option is a DNC, which is like the more invasive option. It is a surgical procedure. They basically go in and wash out your uterus. I'm very familiar with it because I've worked closely with the OR and stuff like that. So anyway, I decided that I was going to go with the medication. It was a Friday, and I said, maybe I'll come in to your office on Monday and get that done. And what do I recommend if this is happening to you? I recommend to go with whatever you feel comfortable with. So I chose to get the medication done. But if you were extremely mentally disturbed by the fact that like the baby wasn't living anymore and it was still inside you, and I can totally see that, but for whatever reason, like that didn't bother me. So I was happy to wait. But if that really bothered you, then I would suggest that you go and get a D&C or go and take the medication. And that's not medical advice. I would never give anybody medical advice. I'm talking about like if you're having a hard time deciding whether to let your body take care of it or take the pills or take the D&C. For me, it was like a mentality thing. Like, am I mentally okay to just kind of sit on this and see if my body does this on its own for a few days and then go take the pills? And I was very comfortable with that. I just don't want you guys to make a decision based on what I decided. And the other thing too is like, listen to your doctor's advice. So I asked her what her advice was, and she kind of told me kind of what I told you. Like I'm a very healthy person, and she didn't think that I had an infection at the time or anything like that. And so she did give me the choice. But anyway, so I was going to go get the pill on Monday. So then Sunday, so like 2 days later, around 10 o'clock in the morning, I just started bleeding. And so this is where the video is going to get a little bit graphic. So if you're not somebody that likes to hear about blood or anything like that, then you can turn it off. But this was like the part of Anna Siccone's video that really helped me. So I'm just going to talk about my experience a little bit. So anyway, so Sunday I started bleeding, and I didn't realize, because I have friends who have had miscarriages before, but I never really talked to them about it and talked to them about specifics. And some people might not be comfortable talking about this topic, but I think where I work in healthcare, I do see blood on a daily basis, and I have dealt with death and things like that. So I feel a little bit more comfortable talking about it. But anyway, I started to bleed, and the bleeding was absolutely horrific. So when I sat on the toilet, it would literally like explode out of me for a few seconds. So let's say like 5 seconds. And this was like blood and massive blood clots. I think in Anna Siccone's video, she thought it was like the sac or something like that, but it wasn't. It was just massive, massive blood clots. And where the blood clot's coming from, it's your body trying to shed everything, like shed the lining and everything. And so there is a lot of bleeding. And for me, there was a lot of clotting. And for everybody, this is different. Apparently, some people don't bleed as heavily for a short period of time. It kind of lasts over a few weeks. Or sorry, not a few weeks, like a few days to a week. But for me, it just happened just like that on its own. My body just started like expelling all of this stuff. The bleeding went on like this, like the heavy, heavy bleeding with clots went on for about 6 hours. And I should have clued in that I was losing a lot of blood. And again, I don't want to scare you if you search this video because you're about to have a miscarriage. Some people, they bleed for like more minimally for like a long period of time before everything is expelled from the body. And even then, in some of those people, like you may have to go afterwards and get an ultrasound and make sure all the products, they call it, are gone out of your body. And that you don't actually need a D&C. Some people need a D&C anyway afterwards because you want to make sure everything's out or you can get an infection. But anyway, so I had like the crazy explosive bleeding with clots, very similar to what Anna Siccone had. And again, I'm so glad I saw her video because I think if I didn't see that, I would be completely like shocked and disturbed. Because I never heard anyone talk about that before. But anyway, I was bleeding for about 6.5 hours. And my baby was sound asleep. He was having a nap and he was in his crib, so he was safe. And my husband was just like outside in the yard with my dog maybe for a few minutes. And I was like, okay, that's enough of me laying in bed. I'm gonna get up and like make something to eat or get myself a drink or whatever. And my husband had been waiting on me like hand and foot all day, but I just wanted to like get up and just do something for myself. I was just getting sick of it. So I walked into the kitchen. When I got into the kitchen, I immediately felt like nauseous and like I was gonna have diarrhea and like I was gonna faint. So I sat on the floor and I remember thinking, okay, my baby's in his crib. He is safe. Jeff is just outside for a minute. He's gonna come in. I'm just gonna sit here. That way if I faint, I'm not going to fall and smash my head. So anyway, I sat on the floor and I must have fainted, and Jeff kind of came in the house at the same time because he saw me topple over. and he said I was only out for about 30 seconds. But then after I woke up, he gave me a cold cloth and some water, and I couldn't sit upright without fainting. So like I could barely pick my head up. And we decided that I was going to go to the emergency room, because now that I think of it, I probably lost like 2 liters of blood, and my hemoglobin isn't great to begin with. So anyway, I crawled to the bathroom. I like changed my pad and everything. My husband took me to the emergency room. I got to the emergency room. They took me in right away. I think one of the reasons they took me in right away is because I was so white. Like I had no color in my face whatsoever. Like my lips were white. I just looked awful. And he told them that I had massive bleeding. And anyway, so they took me in right away. My blood pressure was a little low. My heart rate was low, but my blood pressure and my heart rate are kind of low anyway. But anyway, they took me in. I saw the doctor right away. He said, I'm going to take your blood work to find out where your hemoglobin is to make sure you didn't lose so much blood that you need a blood transfusion. He said, and we're going to start you on IV fluids to try to bring your pressure up and everything, because I was totally dehydrated. And one of the reasons I knew I was dehydrated was because like I have kind of big veins. I don't know if you can see them, like in my hand. They were gone. Like you could not see a vein. What you could see was like almost like a tiny, tiny pinpoint, like the skinniest version of a vein you could ever see. The veins out of my hands were like look at that hand. They were just gone. So I knew like I was completely dehydrated. So anyway, they hooked me up to IV fluids. While this is going on, I'm still going to the bathroom every 15 to 20 minutes. Like my husband's coming in with me with the IV pole, and I'm having the like explosive bleeding and clot still. I wasn't having any pain, and I was there for about an hour and a half, and then I started getting like labor pains or like sharp contractions. And they say that you can have this a lot. Some people have it the whole time they're miscarrying, and some people need like major pain medication and interventions because they have pain almost like the same as you would when you're in labor, especially if you take that drug that you take that induces the miscarriage. Anyway, so I was having a ton of pain all of a sudden, just like a couple of contractions. I was like laying on the stretcher at this point, and I rang for my nurse and I said like, look, I'm having like really bad like labor pains, not the worst pains I ever had, like probably on a scale of 10, like I don't know, a 6 out of 10. But they're really strong. My uterus is contracting. I said, can I have something for pain? She said, absolutely. I'll go ask the doctor what you can have, and I'll bring you in something for pain. So anyway, she brought me in something for pain. Then she left the room. And then I felt like a huge contraction and got up, went in the bathroom. And anyway, I delivered the placenta and the little tiny fetus. I don't know. I'm kind of glad I saw it in a way, but I think for some people that would be like extremely mentally disturbing. But I just think that the nurse that I had and the doctor I had and the atmosphere that I was in, and just working in healthcare and seeing things like that and dealing with death on a daily basis, and I just was mentally in a good place to be there for that, and that definitely gave me a lot of closure. And like I said, everything about my emergency experience was really good, and I would rather that happen there in the hospital in a clinical setting than that happen at home. And so that was that. And so I stayed hooked up to my IV fluids for about an hour. And then he said, if you're comfortable, like, we'll send you home. Your blood pressure is a lot better after the fluid boluses and everything, and your bleeding should slow down. And if it doesn't, if you have any issues or more pain, or if you feel lightheaded, please come back into the emergency department. And I was like, no, I actually do feel better, and I feel like I can deal with this at home. So anyway, that was a few days ago. Cut to today. I'm exhausted. So my hemoglobin is really low for me. I'm taking an iron supplement that was recommended by my doctor. I'm very like dizzy and lightheaded, and like I'm extremely pale. You can't tell in this video because I have a ton of makeup on purpose. Like I have like lipstick on and blush and everything because I looked like horrible, and I didn't want you guys to feel any worse for me than you probably already do. So other than like just feeling generally weak and tired, I am still bleeding, and my doctor said I'll most likely continue to bleed for like another week or so, and she said it'll just be like a period. So I shouldn't have any more heavy bleeding with clots, and if I do, I should let her know. But I'm anticipating I'm going to bleed for like a week or maybe even 10 days. and I'm having some like mild period cramps at times. But other than that, that's kind of all of my symptoms. Or if you're watching this video again because you're going through a miscarriage, one thing that my doctor told me that I feel like it's important to spread the word about is that you do run a higher risk for infection after a miscarriage because you can have like blood and tissue and stuff left inside the body. So if you experience any additional dizziness or lightheadedness, or if you feel generally unwell, flu-like symptoms, if you start to get a fever, anything like that, that is considered a medical emergency and you should contact your healthcare provider right away. But anyway, so that's that. So I'm off work for a week or so just to kind of recover and get my mind wrapped around anything. I'm really not that emotional right now. I think because the grieving process for me started like a week ago when I found out I was miscarrying. And I do plan on trying again to have another baby. My doctor said, like the most recent research said, that you can start trying again as soon as you have a normal period again. But for me, I think I'm gonna wait like 2 months. That's just my own personal decision, just to like exercise a little bit and eat healthy and just feel like myself and kind of relax and not think about that for a little while. I just think that I'm gonna wait a couple of months. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap this video up. I just have one last thing to say. If you're watching this video, it's either because you are one of my subscribers and you watch all of my videos, and if that's you, I just want to thank you for everything and all your support up to this point. And I really am doing okay. I'm not putting on a brave face for the camera. I'm a very open person. I told a lot of people that I was pregnant, so I'm going to have to then tell those people that I'm not pregnant anymore, and I already started that process. I'm not somebody who has social anxiety, and so if I go to tell somebody and I start to cry, I start to cry. Like, I'm not worried that I told people or that I told you guys, because I feel like you guys are like a big part of my life now, my YouTube family. And so I just thank you for watching this video. If you are watching this video because you found out you're having a miscarriage, or you think you're having a miscarriage and you searched this video, I just have a couple things to say to you. Number one, I'm very sorry that you're going through this. This can be very scary and horrific. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. They can't be really healthcare related questions because I don't ever like to give any kind of health related advice over the internet, and I'm not an expert in any of these things. I just know what happened to me. Please watch Anna Saccone's video. I'm going to link it below. And again, I'm just very sorry that you're going through this. And if any of you guys want to share your experiences in the comment section, please do that. I find it very therapeutic to talk about this, and it really is going to help a lot of people. And I hate to say this, but I'm just going to say it right now. If anybody says anything negative or disturbing or insults anybody who's commenting on this video, if there's any negativity or anything like that, I'm just going to delete it. I see my comments right away and I'll just block and delete them. I'm not going to be like I am with most of my videos, which is I kind of find it kind of funny when people insult me. But no, I'm not going to tolerate this on this video because it's too serious. And so anyway, guys, I will see you again very soon with more lifestyle update videos. They're not going to be pregnancy related at first. I'm going to decide what I'm going to kind of do with that. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to my channel and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.